Hey guys, it's me, Boom here. On my last devlog, I talked about my hit new game Extraction. And spoiler alert, I'm talking about it again. And a lot has happened since my last devlog, so sit back in your chair, grab your cornflakes, and get ready for some epic devlog action. So in the last devlog, I made the game's basic functions work. The players and the loot could spawn in, but there was no way to get out of the map and there's no way to sell all the loot that you got. As a result, every time I dispatched my opponent, I would have to reset my character in order to get back to the lobby. And then this floating face would haunt me in my dreams. And I didn't want to be haunted in my dreams, so I planned on making the extraction system. But before I got into that, I made this timer in the top left corner to tell the player how much time is left in the round. And if the timer goes to 0 and you don't extract, then you die. When I first implemented it, it did not work. There were 2 timers going at once. And I'm not a timer expert, but that's probably not good. But then I fixed it and I set the timer to be 5 minutes instead of 10 for now. I then moved on to making the extraction system. I found this free model shack in the toolbox. And quick disclaimer, all free models that I borrow from other people will eventually be replaced when I release the full game. I then placed this green hitbox to detect when the player is standing inside the shack, so it can extract them to the lobby if they stand in there long enough. I then did a little bit of my coding magic and then I tested it, and it worked, although this timer at the top is a little bit funky. But I just don't feel like fixing it, so I'm not going to fix it right now. Haha, LMAO. The next thing I decided to pour a lot of time into was upgrading the map. As of right now, the map is kind of bare bones, not a lot is going on with it. So I decided to do some changes. The first thing I did was add these wooden planks around the map, so the player has more places to navigate around the map and shoot people. The next thing I did was add some more doors and holes in the wall around the map so that the place is more navigatable. I don't know if navigatable is a word. Hold up, let me check this out. Aha, I win! I then reworked the middle section a little bit and made it look better. And then I added this skylight to the top, and it's starting to look a lot better. I mean, it's obviously not perfect, but hey, we're getting somewhere. I then was feeling like Picasso, so I made this little art piece here, and I thought it turned out pretty good. And I'm not saying I'm an artist, but I'm also not saying that I'm not an artist. I then thought the outside was looking a little plain, and I also didn't want the players to stare off into the endless nothingness of the void. So I added this wall around the entire map to kind of give it a little more of an inner city vibe. I then wanted to make a background to go over the wall so that it made the player feel like they were actually in a city. So I made this skyscraper here, and it was absolutely terrible. Like, I used hundreds of parts. Like, it was just a laggy mess. So I deleted it. I then wanted to work on the entire layout of the map, just so it's more than an office. And, you know, I can plan for things to put things later. So I rearranged the walls in a different layout, and I put placeholder buildings so that I can, you know, replace them with actual buildings later. So stay tuned for that. But one building that's been implemented already is this motel here. And you may be asking, who did build this motel? Was it you, Boom? No, let me introduce you to someone. This is my friend Schlackcoin Investor, and he built this motel here with his bare hands. Schlackcoin, can you give us a tour of the place?
Actually, yeah, I can. So in here, we've got this first room down here. Don't mind the ceiling, you know, room was built like this. It's, you know, lets the air circulate a bit better. But we got this bathroom as well, everything you need. Toilet, shower, sponge, someone left that there. In this room, you know, if you like sleeping at a different angle, you know, we got you hooked up. You know, direct access to the office, nice commute time. It's handy to have that in case you're working there. And then you have these nice stair-type stairs over here. And also this window in this room, which allows you to connect with the nature of the parking lot a lot better. And, you know, back manager's office, like to spend my time here. Don't mind the papers everywhere. And yeah, that's basically a motel. Pay for the night or get out.
Wow, thanks for showing us, Schlackcoin Investor. But now we're done with the map, we can move on to the... In my last devlog, I talked about how I made an inventory system. And I also talked about how I just could not get it to work. So I decided to switch over to the Roblox's inventory system for now, temporarily, until I make a new inventory system later on in the road. So on my models, I added little pickups and I made it go into the inventory. But as you can see, when I initially made the script, it made it so you could grab the diamond out of your own hand and it would duplicate it to your inventory. It is not supposed to do that. But eventually I got it to work so that you could pick up all of the items and it would go into your backpack. And I also made it so if somebody kills you or you die, all of your items drop so they can get their hands on your greasy loot. And, as you may have noticed, there are some new models that are on the floor to pick up. You see, a new modeler joined my team. His name is Redacted. He looks kind of silly. But, even though he's silly, he makes a lot of cool models. Let me show you all of the models that he's made that we added as loot into the game. We have a vinyl, a box of batteries, a mystery package that sells for a random amount, a wrench, a small statue, a ring, a radio, a toolbox, a lock, a graphics card, some headphones, a camera, some scissors, a watch, a hammer, a portable charger, a phone, a laptop, a cassette, a necklace, an amethyst, an emerald, a ruby, the same diamond, a light bulb, a sponge, tape, a new vase, and a lighter. Wow, Redacted, that's a lot of models. Is there anything you want to say about your models?
You should subscribe to the Boom. That's all I gotta say.
Wow, such wise words. Now that I had all the models finished, I then put them into loot tables so that it spawns all around the map. But there's a small problem here. There's no money system to reward you for getting all this loot. So I designed this shop system here so you could buy guns and sell all your loot. So I got to work on making the shop system in game. And besides making the layout, the shop actually went really smoothly. I implemented each item so you could sell them individually, or I added the sell all button at the top so you can sell all of your items at once. And after some scripting magic, it actually worked first try. You can see at the top it tells you how many items you sold and how much money you sold it for. But now that I've added this sell feature, I need to add some items that you can actually buy. The first of these buyable items I decided to make were sodas. Sodas are what I decided that the player will drink in order to get stuff. I currently made 3 sodas, health, shield, and speed, and each of them have 3 tiers indicated by the color, and the deeper the color, the more effective it is. The next thing to do was just to add these things to a buy menu on the left side, so I made a buy menu, and I also made a dollar value, so the player starts with $300 and they can buy all of this stuff. But the problem is the soda was looking really lonely on the buy menu. So the next thing I decided to add was armor. I chose to keep the armor system pretty simple. There will be 4 tiers of armor in the game, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as highlighted by the colors there. And when you equip the armor, a little bar appears in the bottom right with your shield amount. Each tier of armor gives you a different shield amount, and you can replenish your shield by drinking some shield soda. You can also unequip your armor by pressing H, and when you re-equip the armor, you'll notice that you actually keep the same shield amount that you had previously. This makes it so when the player has a bunch of armors in their inventory, they can't just keep replenishing their shield. Now the armor system was pretty cool, but I still had a problem. My gun system sucked. The problem is I still didn't feel like I had the skills to make my own gun system, and also I really didn't feel like it. So I did what any self-respecting game developer did, and used a free one. So I added 3 guns. First was the USP, which is this little pistol. The second was an MP5, which is the submachine gun. And the third was an HK-33, which is the assault rifle. And disclaimer again, this gun system is temporary. I'm going to make my own later, I promise. Now the game's development was coming along really well. Things were happening, new features were being added every day, but there was a giant problem that I didn't expect to come up when developing this game. The game's too fun. Like there were countless times where we'd go into the team test mode to test out some feature that I added, and we would just end up playing for hours. Like sometimes I'd be planning on working on the game for a long time, and then I would just get nothing done because we'd just be playing it the whole time. But there's worse problems to have. At least the game's fun to us, and that's all that matters. So that concludes this episode of Devlog with the Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys would like to playtest the game or just track the game's development, make sure to join the Discord in the description below. I love hearing your guys' feedback for the game and your suggestions. Oh, and also, subscribe!
Yeah, his name's the Boom, and he's a guy who plays Roblox. So subscribe or die. Subscribe, 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 subscribe.